They always underestimated us. For a century, the Galactic Council viewed humanity as a minor species, barely out of its cradle. We were tolerated, at best, invited to observe the Council's grand debates, but never taken seriously. Not by the Ithari, who ruled most of the Inner Rim, nor by the cold-blooded Trassans, who saw us as brash and backward, and certainly not by the so-called Firstborn, the ancient race of elders who thought their millennia of dominance would never end. They didn't know. No one knew. We'd been building for decades, in the dark corners of our solar system, beyond the Kuiper Belt, in the shadow of dead stars, inside the gravity wells of rogue planets where no prying sensors could see. Planet-sized warships. It started after the Second Contact War, back when humanity learned, the hard way, that alliances in the galaxy meant nothing when power shifted. The Trassans betrayed us at Saltir Prime. Over 1 billion civilians dead in an unprovoked strike. The Council issued sanctions, meaningless words. There was no justice, no retribution. So Earth decided to stop playing by their rules. The plan was simple, brutal, ruthless. Build a fleet so vast, so terrifying, that no alien empire would dare lift a finger against us again. No more waiting for permission. No more trusting old treaties. No more weakness. The Terran Strategic Command was born in secrecy. The world governments dissolved their petty disputes overnight when the footage from Saltir Prime came through. The horror was enough to unite even the most stubborn leaders. I remember when I first got recruited. Back then, I was just a deep space engineer, one of the best at zero-gravity construction, but still a nobody. They pulled me out of a mining rig orbiting Neptune and told me I had 2 choices: join the Black Project or disappear forever. Of course, I joined. We built in places no sane person would go. We hollowed out dwarf planets, wrapped them in layers of neutron-forged alloys. We fused entire asteroid belts into superstructure skeletons. Some of the warships were as large as moons. Others, true planet-sized behemoths, housed entire military populations. Millions of soldiers, factories, launch bays big enough to disgorge entire armadas. They named the first ship Leviathan 1. I was there the day she powered up her main drive. The entire dark side of the rogue planet lit up like a newborn sun. And all this, right under the Council's nose. The thing about galactic politics? They move slow. Old empires, old minds. They debated endlessly about economic zones and border disputes while we bled in the shadows. And while they debated, we built. Decades passed. The Terran fleet grew. What started as a desperate act of vengeance became something else. Raw power. The kind of power that changes the balance of the galaxy. And then came the tipping point. A Ithari patrol, too curious for its own good, picked up gravitic distortions near Glisa 581. They sent a scout frigate. It never returned. For the first time, whispers of something moving in the outer rim began to spread. The Council dismissed it, of course. Human superstition, they called it. Idiots. They didn't know we'd already mobilized. By then, 7 planet ships were fully operational, another 12 nearing completion. Entire flotillas of dreadnoughts and support cruisers waiting in their shadows. The Council summoned Earth to a hearing. One last attempt to scold us like children. The President declined to attend. Instead, he sent a message that would echo through the halls of galactic history. We are done kneeling. We are done waiting. Watch the skies. 2 days later, Leviathan 1 entered Council space. The galaxy had never seen it coming. It was the largest vessel ever seen in Council space. Leviathan 1 emerged from fold space just outside the capital system of Erythra Prime. No fanfare. No warning. One moment the stars were clear. Then they were swallowed by a wall of steel and fury. I watched the live feed from our command deck. Even after years of building her, even knowing every bolt and drive array, seeing her like this, it made my blood run cold. And proud. Very proud. "Status report," General Mercer barked. His voice carried the weight of a man who'd given everything for this moment. "All systems green. Weapons hot. No hostile response yet," came the reply from Commander Juno at the tactical station. Of course, there wasn't a response. The Council fleets weren't even close to prepared. Their fastest interceptors wouldn't breach our shields. Their orbital batteries, designed to repel pirate incursions or the odd border skirmish, were laughable against Leviathan's armor. This wasn't an invasion. This was a message. General Mercer turned to me. "Patch me through." I nodded and routed the comms through the ship's primary transceiver, powerful enough to reach every capital world on the Council grid. When Mercer spoke, his voice echoed across the stars. "This is General Thomas Mercer of the Terran Strategic Command. Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from all Council accords. Your betrayals will not be forgotten. Any hostile action will be met with overwhelming force. You have witnessed our capability. Consider this your first and only warning." Simple. Director. No room for misinterpretation. The Council chamber, of course, descended into chaos. We monitored the feeds. The Ithari ambassador was shrieking about illegal acts of war. The Trassans called for sanctions, cowards after what they'd done to Saltir Prime. The Firstborn? Silent. Their ancient faces unreadable, but we knew. They were afraid. Good. "Multiple fleets mobilizing," Juno reported. "Outer Rim defense forces are converging on our location. Estimated arrival, 3 hours." "Let them come," Mercer said coldly. "Deploy the screen." Across the void, smaller Terran dreadnoughts and cruisers began to pour from Leviathan's hangars. It was a sight to behold. An entire fleet launched from within a single ship. Thousands of hulls gleamed dark against the Erythra star. I leaned forward, heart pounding. We weren't here to start a war, not yet. But if they forced our hand... "Sir," I said quietly, "you know they won't back down. They can't afford to, not after this." Mercer nodded grimly. "That's the point." You see, this wasn't just about revenge. It was about changing the order of the galaxy. For too long, humanity had been at the bottom of the ladder. We'd traded, begged, allied, and been betrayed for our efforts. Now, we had the leverage, fear, the one currency that mattered. But leverage alone wasn't enough. We needed blood to seal it. "Enemy fleets entering system," Juno reported. "Flagship identified. Trassan warbarge Dominion's Fist. They're leading the charge." I almost smiled. The Trassans again. Fools. "Engage defensive posture," Mercer ordered. "No first strike unless fired upon." We waited. Minutes dragged by like hours. The enemy fleet closed in. Hundreds of ships, formation tight, weapons charged. Then it happened. A single energy lance fired from Dominion's Fist, streaking toward one of our Vanguard cruisers. A mistake they wouldn't live to regret. "Return fire," Mercer said. The first volley from Leviathan's main guns tore through space like the wrath of a god. Each round, massive, magnetically accelerated slugs struck with enough force to crack a planetary crust. The lead Trassan warships vanished in fire and debris. In seconds, their formation broke. Status? 30 enemy ships destroyed, the rest are retreating. "Pursue," Mercer ordered. "No survivors." Our dreadnoughts surged forward, finishing the job. The Council fleet, so confident, so ready to put humanity in its place, was annihilated within the hour. No human casualties, not a scratch on Leviathan's hull. And the message? Broadcast across every channel. "This is the power of Earth. Test us again, and you will burn." But victory came with a price. Within days, the galaxy was in uproar. Emergency council sessions. calls for joint military action, bounties placed on every human ship. They're rallying faster than expected, Juno reported. Multiple species are abandoning old rivalries to form a counter-alliance. They'll come for us, Mercer said. Good, let them. We need the justification to go further. He wasn't wrong. Our intelligence confirmed that even the Firstborn were mobilizing ancient war fleets. Ships that hadn't flown in 10,000 years. Desperation. Fear. Meanwhile, back in Sol, the rest of the Leviathan fleet was preparing. 7 planet ships, each larger than the last. Leviathan 1 was only the vanguard. I returned to Mars for a brief respite, though sleep eluded me. The war had begun. There was no turning back. I met with Director Hale, one of the architects behind the entire Black project. A cold man, brilliant but ruthless. You understand what's coming, Hale said. This won't be a limited conflict. The Council will throw everything at us. I know, I replied. You also know, he continued, voice like ice. We can't show mercy. Not this time. I nodded. No more treaties, no more second chances. The galaxy had shown us its true face. It was time humanity showed ours. The second strike came sooner than expected. A combined fleet, Firstborn, Ithari, Trasan, over 10,000 ships, descended on the Vega Corridor, one of Earth's key trade routes. Their goal? Cut us off, starve our outer colonies, force a surrender. They didn't know we had a second Leviathan already deployed, Leviathan 2, Oblivion. Where Leviathan 1 was designed for shock and awe, Oblivion was built for slaughter. Its weaponry? Planetary disintegration arrays, singularity bombs, gravitic rippers. No fleet had ever faced such a thing. The Battle of Vega lasted 6 hours. 6. When it was over, space itself was scarred. The enemy fleet was gone, reduced to drifting wreckage and radioactive husks. Our forces suffered minor losses. The message was clear. Humanity was not to be trifled with. Back on Earth, the President addressed the population. He didn't speak of peace. Not anymore. They underestimated us. They betrayed us. Now they fear us, as they should. We will not rest. We will not yield. The stars themselves will remember this day, the rise of Terran supremacy. And the people cheered. The old ideals, unity, diplomacy, cooperation, were gone. Replaced by a new creed, strength, vengeance, dominance. Some questioned the cost. Some whispered of the morality. But their voices were drowned in the roar of victory. As for me, I had no illusions. We had crossed a line. There was no going back. And deep down, I didn't want to. The galaxy had forced our hand. Now it would feel the full weight of humanity's wrath. And this was only the beginning. It didn't take long for the cracks to show. After Vega, the Council's so-called Grand Alliance started to fracture. Their species had never truly trusted each other. The only thing holding them together now was fear of us. But fear is a poor glue when the blood starts to flow. And we made sure the blood flowed. Mercer, now Supreme Commander of Terran forces, ordered strikes across the Outer Rim. Precision raids. No grand battles, just a steady drumbeat of terror. We targeted shipyards, fuel depots, communications hubs. No warning, no survivors. I was part of the engineering team aboard Leviathan 3. Dominion. She wasn't quite finished, but finished enough. Her role was surgical annihilation, pinpoint orbital bombardments designed to cripple the enemy economy. We hit the Ithari first. Their colonies on Veos Prime burned under Dominion's guns. The screams on the open channels. I won't lie, they haunted me. But I never looked away. This was war. You win, or you die. The Ithari chose this path when they left Saltir to rot. No mercy. The Council's response? More posturing, More empty threats, but behind the scenes they were falling apart. Our intelligence operatives reported heated arguments within the Alliance. The Trassans accused the Firstborn of cowardice. The Ithari demanded more ships from their allies, ships those allies weren't willing to give. And then the betrayal started. The Rith Collective, a minor species, but one with a sizable fleet, switched sides. Publicly. They pledged loyalty to Earth in exchange for protection. It sent shockwaves through the galaxy. If the smaller powers began defecting, the Council was doomed. And everyone knew it. That was when the Firstborn finally moved. They'd been silent until now, watching from their ancient homeworlds beyond the Orion Veil. They hadn't fought a real war in millennia. Their arrogance was their armor. But we'd forced their hand. Word came through our black channels. An ancient fleet was on the move. The Judicator Armada, ships the size of continents, powered by technologies even we barely understood. We expected this, Mercer said when the reports came in. They'll come to prove they still rule the stars. Can we stop them? I asked. Even after everything we'd built, those ships. They were old, yes, but the kind of old that meant dangerous. Mercer smiled, cold and sharp. We won't just stop them. We'll break them. The battle was set for the Epsilon Eridani corridor. We sent Leviathan 1, 2, and Dominion, supported by a full Terran fleet. Over 10,000 ships. The largest force Earth had ever deployed. I was aboard Dominion, deep in the command nexus. The air was thick with tension. Everyone knew what was at stake. Then the enemy arrived. The Judicator Armada filled the system. Massive, black-hulled Leviathans, bristling with energy fields older than our species. Even our long-range scanners struggled to penetrate their defenses. They look like gods, someone whispered. But they weren't gods. They were old bullies who'd never been punched in the mouth. Mercer's voice cut through the comms. Target priority, primary Judicator cores, no quarter, show them what humanity has become. And the guns sang. The opening salvos lit the void. The Judicators fought like nothing we'd faced before. Their energy weapons warped space itself, carving through lesser Terran ships. Entire wings of cruisers vanished in seconds. But our Leviathans held. Leviathan 1's rail cannons hammered their lead ships. Oblivion's singularity bombs detonated inside Judicator formations, ripping them apart from within. Dominion's gravitic lances found their marks. 1, 2, 3 Judicator Titans fell. Still, the enemy pressed forward. They had millennia of arrogance to prove. I worked the gravitic calibration systems, fingers moving on instinct. One mistake here, and our own ships could be caught in the crossfire. Then came the turning point. Leviathan 2 pierced the Judicator flagship's main shield with a full-powered singularity core. The resulting implosion was catastrophic. A black hole blinked into existence for a fraction of a second, swallowing half the enemy formation. The Judicators faltered. That was all we needed. Our dreadnought wings swarmed the survivors. The final Judicator Titan broke apart under concentrated rail fire. The last remnants fled into deep space. Epsilon Eridani was ours. The galaxy went mad. The Firstborn defeated. The Council in shambles. Worlds that had mocked Earth a decade ago now sent envoys begging for protection or surrendering outright. But not everyone was ready to kneel. The Ithari High Conclave issued a desperate call for vengeance, a final crusade to exterminate humanity before it was too late. Fools. We intercepted their plans. A multi-species strike force, 50,000 ships, was massing near the Pentarus expanse. Their goal, Sol itself. They want to burn Earth, Mercer said, eyes cold. Then we draw them in, Hale replied, and we show them what real terror looks like. The trap was set. We leaked false intel, made it seem like Sol's outer defenses were weak. The enemy took the bait, They came in force. 50,000 ships, all races, all desperate. Waiting for them? Not just our Leviathans. We'd deployed something new. Project Gorgon. I'd only heard whispers. Experimental weapons beyond the bounds of physics. Gravitic resonance fields. Temporal destabilizers. Planetary-scale EMP bursts. Now they would be tested. As the enemy fleet breached the heliopause, Gorgon stations activated. Space itself rippled. Enemy ships lost power. Crews reported time loops, sensor ghosts, systems failing one by one. Then the Leviathans struck. It wasn't a battle. It was an execution. Within 2 hours, the enemy was gone. 50,000 ships reduced to wreckage. Not one reached Earth orbit. And the footage? We made sure it was broadcast galaxy-wide. "This is your future," Mercer's voice declared over the shattered comms. "Resist and be erased." In the aftermath, the Council collapsed. World after world broke away. Some fled to the galactic fringes, others pledged fealty to Earth. And on Sul, the transformation was complete. The Terran Union was born. No more united Earth. No more pretense of democracy. We were an empire now, and the stars belonged to us. Mercer was acclaimed as Supreme Imperator. Hale vanished into the Black Projects. Rumors said even darker weapons were being built. As for me, I stood aboard Dominion, looking out at the stars. The galaxy had once mocked us, feared us, betrayed us. Now it belonged to us, and deep down, I knew. We weren't finished, not by a long shot, because in the farthest reaches of space, beyond even the old Council records, other powers watched. Older, stranger. And if they came, we would be ready. We were no longer prey. We were the apex. The smell of ionized metal was thick in Dominion's lower decks as we prepped for launch. Final checks, last-minute calibrations, not because we needed to, but because none of us could sit still. Epsilon Eridani wasn't just another engagement. It was the engagement. The firstborn were coming. You could feel it in the air, the way the veterans spoke in clipped tones, the way the new recruits faked bravado and prayed no one noticed their hands shaking. I wasn't a soldier, still an engineer by trade. But on a Leviathan-class warship, no one was safe from the fight. The old rule was simple. If you're breathing, you're useful. I checked the gravitic arrays one more time, fingers running over controls I could have worked blindfolded. The systems were stable. Our new tech, gravitational pulse cannons, singularity torpedoes, still experimental, still dangerous to us if miscalibrated. But if they worked, they'd tear the Judicator Armada apart. Status? I turned. General Mercer himself had entered the deck, eyes sharp, uniform plain and without medals. He didn't need them. His presence was authority enough. Arrays green, weapons charged, shields cycling nominal. Good, he said. The firstborn think age makes them untouchable. We'll show them how wrong they are. He didn't say it, but we all knew. This was personal. The old empires had spat on humanity for generations. Let us bleed at Saltir. Mocked our rise. Now they were afraid, and that fear made them dangerous. They arrived in force. Our deep space sensors picked up the distortion waves first. No fold signatures. These weren't ships coming through the normal space lanes. The firstborn had their own methods, ancient and half understood. The Judicator Armada materialized at the system's edge like ghosts. Hundreds of titanic vessels, city-sized or larger, covered in black metallic scales that shimmered with strange energy fields. I heard more than one officer whisper, "Impossible," when the scans came back. Nothing should have survived that long. These ships were older than human civilization itself, older than Earth's recorded history. But they were here, and they were coming. The fleet assembled fast. Leviathan 1, Oblivion, Dominion, thousands of escort ships, carriers, stealth frigates, the most powerful force Earth had ever sent beyond its borders. Enemy formation advancing, Juno reported from Tactical. Estimated impact in 42 minutes. Mercer stood at the central display, silent. Finally he spoke. Let them come. The battle began with a flash that blinded half our sensors. Firstborn weapons weren't like anything we'd seen. Reality itself seemed to bend around their initial strikes. Several of our forward dreadnoughts vanished. No explosion, no debris, just gone. My blood ran cold. They're using spatial fracture tech, someone whispered. God help us. But our Leviathans answered. Leviathan 1's main rail cannons fired. Slugs the size of buildings accelerated to near relativistic speeds. One Judicator Titan took a direct hit and imploded, its protective fields collapsing inward with a scream of tortured metal. That was the turning point. Our ships adjusted. Adaptive shielding, rapid gravitic compensation. The next wave of enemy weapons struck less effectively. Then we deployed the singularity torpedoes. I triggered the gravitic stabilizers as the first volley launched. The torpedoes folded space ahead of them, creating momentary gravitational anomalies. When they struck the Judicator formation, the effects were devastating. 2 enemy vessels crumpled inward, collapsing into miniature black holes. Another was torn apart by gravitic shear. Cheers erupted on the comms. But the Firstborn weren't finished. Their central flagship, an ancient construct known in legends as the Eternal Spear, advanced alone, energy fields surging. It fired a beam that lanced through 3 of our battlecruisers, reducing them to molten wreckage. Target that ship, Mercer ordered. All 3 Leviathans focused fire. For 20 minutes, the void shook with the exchange, a titanic duel of forces beyond anything the galaxy had witnessed. In the end, humanity prevailed. A final gravitic lance from Dominion pierced the Eternal Spear's core. The ancient ship fractured, detonating in a cascade of energy that lit the system like a false sun. The Firstborn faltered. And we did not. 6 hours later, the Judicator Armada was gone. What remained of their fleet, scattered, fled into deep space. We held Epsilon Eridani, and for the first time, the galaxy knew. The Firstborn were not invincible. In the aftermath, chaos spread. Galactic comms were flooded with panic. Systems once loyal to the Council declared neutrality, or open allegiance to Earth. On Mars, the Terran Command Council convened an emergency session. I attended as part of the Engineering Advisory Board, though the scale of what was happening felt almost beyond my grasp. Mercer stood at the head of the chamber. The Council is finished, he said bluntly. Their fleets are shattered, their unity broken. Now is the time to move. Full conquest? One of the admirals asked. Mercer's gaze was cold. Full dominance. The galaxy must understand. Humanity is the new apex. Any resistance will be crushed. There was no dissent. The room had tasted victory and power. No one was going to argue for restraint now. The next months were a storm. Our fleet swept across the inner rim. Ithari's strongholds fell in days. The Trasun homeworld was encircled and blockaded. Everywhere we went, resistance crumbled, or was annihilated. The smaller species capitulated quickly. Some begged for alliance, others simply surrendered and hoped to survive. The old Galactic Council dissolved. In its place, a new order rose. The Terran Union. No pretense of shared governance. Earth ruled, period. I returned to Dominion between campaigns, overseeing upgrades. The mood aboard the Leviathan was different now. Harder. The crew walked with the confidence of conquerors. The losses of Saltir, the humiliation of the old council, those were distant memories now. But there was something else, too. A tension beneath the surface. Rumors. Some said Hale's black projects had gone even darker, that new weapons were being tested, things that bent not just space, but time, thought, even life itself. I didn't know what to believe, but I knew this: the galaxy had changed, and we had changed with it. Late one cycle, Mercer called me to his private chamber. "You've seen what we've built," he said, "but the work isn't finished." He handed me a classified dossier. Project Wraith, advanced Leviathan prototypes, planet-warping drives, weapons designed not just to kill, but to erase entire worlds from existence. "If the other powers beyond the galactic rim move," he said quietly, "we must be ready." I understood. The war wasn't over. Not truly. The Firstborn were broken, the Council dead. But in the dark between the stars, older eyes watched. Stranger things stirred. And Earth, we would meet them. With fire. We called it peace, but it wasn't peace. It was conquest. After Epsilon Eridani, the galaxy lay open. Humanity swept across system after system, carving out an empire from the bones of the old Council. The Terran banners flew over worlds that had once scorned us, and they called us liberators. At first, some did, genuinely. On the fringes, species that had been trampled by the Ithari or enslaved by the Trassans welcomed the new order. They'd seen what we did to the Firstborn. They knew resistance meant extinction. Others bent the knee out of fear. And a few resisted. I watched it happen from the heart of Dominion. We were never idle. Between campaigns, between bombardments, between the cold moments of orbital siege, we hunted whispers, insurgencies, cells of loyalists to the old Council, pockets of resistance on captured worlds. It wasn't war on the grand scale, not anymore. It was blood in the alleys, sabotage in the shipyards, assassination attempts on our command staff. And worse, there were fractures inside our ranks too. I first noticed it after the Draco campaign. We'd crushed the Trassan resistance in the Draco sector. 3 Trassan colonies glassed from orbit. No survivors, no remorse. Official orders were clear. The Trassans would never threaten Earth again. But as the smoke cleared, our crew's celebration felt wrong. It wasn't pride, it was hunger for more. I heard it in the voices of junior officers, in the boasts of the new captains. We should take the Orion Spur next, push beyond the rim. Why stop? Let them all kneel. And then there were the black ships. No markings, no official records. They moved with Dominion's fleet, but answered only to Hale's division. I saw one dock once, a sleek obsidian dagger of a vessel, bristling with gravitic projectors far beyond what even the Leviathans used. Rumor said the black ships carried Wraith tech, cloaking fields, reality distorters, weapons that didn't just kill, they erased. People, structures, memories. No one would say it aloud, but the fear was there, even among our own. I confronted Hale once, in one of Mars' hidden fortresses, deep below the ice crust. He'd summoned me to oversee new gravitic cores for Dominion's refit. I saw what he was building. Temporal cascade generators, neuroresonance arrays, things no human mind was meant to touch. Why? I asked him, cold. Hale's gaze never wavered. Because we haven't won yet. We've crushed the Council. The Firstborn are broken. He shook his head slowly. The galaxy is vast. You think the Council was the apex? They were caretakers, frauds. There are powers beyond the rim that they feared, that even the Firstborn dared not name. He leaned in. They're watching now, watching us. We must be ready. His voice dropped lower. And if we cannot be ready, we must become something they will fear. Mercer knew. Of course he knew. But I could see the weight on him growing. Every new campaign, every new declaration of conquest, he looked a little harder, a little older. We met in private after the Solaris campaign. Another victory, another subjugated sector. He poured 2 glasses of dark Terran whiskey, the old kind, real grain. "To the Empire," he said bitterly. I didn't raise my glass. "You see it too," I said. He nodded, grim. This wasn't what we wanted. We built the Leviathans to survive, to stop the betrayals, to protect Earth." He downed the whiskey in a single swallow. "But now, there are those who want more. Endless war, endless conquest. And Hale's work," he shook his head, "it may doom us all." "So stop it," I said, his eyes locked on mine, cold, tired. "If I try now, I split the command. Civil war, in the middle of this expansion. The others would seize the fleets, and Hale's reach is longer than you know." A long silence. Finally, he said, "Not yet. We need leverage, proof. When the time comes, then we strike." Meanwhile, the galaxy changed. Entire sectors now answered to Terran governors. The old trade routes flew Terran banners. Leviathans patrolled the hyperlanes, and Earth itself? Transformed. The old United Earth government was gone. In its place, the Terran Union, a military-industrial empire ruled by the High Command. Martial law. No elections, no dissent, not openly, but in the shadows, resistance brewed. I saw it first on Vega Prime, a routine inspection. The planet had capitulated months ago, supposedly stable. But we intercepted coded transmissions, human transmissions, loyalist cells, Terrans who rejected the new order, who wanted the old Earth back. I tracked one cell personally, found their leader. A former officer, Major Elias Corrin, decorated in the Contact Wars, hero of Saltir, now labeled a traitor. I confronted him in a derelict subspire beneath Vega's main city. "You fought for Earth," I told him. "Why throw that away?" Corrin's eyes burned. "I fought for a free Earth, not an empire that glassed billions, not this machine." He spat. "You know it too! This isn't victory, it's madness." He didn't beg, didn't bargain. I let him go. Why? I didn't know. But the words stayed with me. Then came the first warning from beyond. A deep space listening post on the rim sent an alert. Garbled, incomplete. Strange readings. Gravitic distortions not matching any known technology. Temporal anomalies. Then silence. The post was gone. We sent a scout fleet. They didn't return. And across the stars, old myths resurfaced. The silent ones. The dark between. Names whispered in the oldest archives. Things even the firstborn feared. Hale smiled when the reports came in. "I told you," he said. "We are not alone, and they are watching." Mercer wasn't so calm. "We're not ready," he said privately. "Not for this." But there was no turning back. Now the fleets mass again. New Leviathans under construction, wraith ships prowling the edges of known space, and I stand aboard Dominion watching the stars. We rose to survive. We rose to avenge. Now we stand on the edge of something far greater or far darker. And the question haunts me. Are we still human? Or have we become something else? Something the galaxy will fear? And perhaps something it will have no choice but to destroy? It started with silence. An entire Terran fleet, Battle Group Sigma, vanished near the Perseid expanse. No distress calls, no debris fields, just gone. Mercer convened an emergency session aboard Leviathan 1. I was called in to advise, though by then my role had shifted. Engineer, yes, but also observer, trusted by Mercer, watched by Hale. The meeting room was dark, secure, layered in gravitic shielding. The faces around the table were hard. Admirals, sector governors, intelligence chiefs. The feed came online. Last transmission from Sigma's lead dreadnought. Distortion, static. Then a voice, garbled, breaking. "They are here, not council, not known." Then nothing. The room was silent. Admiral Corrin, Elias Corrin's brother, though he never spoke of it, leaned forward. "Could it be a firstborn remnant?" Mercer shook his head. "Number the firstborn are broken, and they fear this as much as we do." He looked at Hale. Hale smiled thinly. "The others have noticed us." He'd warned of them for years, powers beyond the rim, beyond even firstborn knowledge, ancient things, predators, some said, things that moved through folds of reality the Leviathans barely touched. My blood ran cold. "Have we made contact?" Mercer asked. "Not yet," Hale said, "but they are probing." He tapped a control. New scans filled the room, gravitic distortions across multiple sectors, disappearances, rogue temporal spikes, sensor ghosts even our AI systems couldn't parse. "And the black ships?" Mercer asked quietly. "They are hunting, but so far nothing returns." The Council was dead. The firstborn were shattered, but the galaxy itself was waking, and not just from without. The first major rebellion broke on Vega Prime. I was there when it started. The loyalist cell Corrin had led, the one I'd spared, had grown. I should have reported them. Maybe I'd hesitated. Maybe part of me still believed in what they fought for. It didn't matter anymore. They struck hard, coordinated attacks across the capital, supply depots, orbital defenses, comm arrays. I saw the first Leviathan drop take fire from planetary cannons, something we hadn't seen in years. And worse, human forces defected. Whole regiments, entire cruiser squadrons turned on their commanders. Vega burned. Mercer acted fast. Dominion was dispatched to reinforce the sector. Alongside Leviathan II, we executed orbital strikes, surgical at first, then less so. When the dust cleared, Vega Prime was a wasteland. 10 million dead, human and alien alike. The rebellion was crushed, but the cost? High, and the message? Clear. The Terran grip was cracking. Back on Mars, the High Command argued, some called for harsher rule, full military occupation of all sectors. Others, fewer but louder, called for reform. A return to the old Earth ideals, an end to the endless war. I watched Mercer through it all, tired, colder. He still commanded loyalty, still the architect of our rise. But even he couldn't stop the tide. And Hale? Hale thrived in the chaos. His Wraith projects accelerated. More black ships launched, darker weapons tested, sometimes on our own rebellious colonies. Rumors swirled. Entire star systems vanished. No official record, no debris, no survivors. Just gone. Hale claimed they were enemy outposts. Others whispered different things. Experiments, cover-ups, testing weapons not meant to exist. Then the second warning came. Deep rim, a massive energy spike, off the charts. No known technology matched it. A Terran scout fleet responded. One ship returned. Barely. Its commander, broken, near mad, reported a vision. A structure beyond comprehension. A presence. Not a fleet, not ships. A thing. Watching. Waiting. Mercer called me in private after the report. "We're on a knife's edge," he said. "The rebellion grows, the others are moving, and Hale will burn the galaxy to save his vision." I nodded. "What do you want from me?" He looked me dead in the eye. "Proof, Hale's secrets, before it's too late." It was treason, we both knew it. But I agreed. Not because I believed in the old ideals anymore. Those were dead. But because something darker was rising. And if we didn't stop it, humanity might burn with the rest of the galaxy. Meanwhile, the Empire tottered. More rebellions flared. Minor at first, then larger. The Orion Spur revolted. 3 sectors lost overnight. The Ithari remnants launched a desperate strike on the Vega corridor. They failed, but inflicted heavy damage. And across the networks, a new symbol spread. The Phoenix, an ancient Terran mark of rebirth. The Resistance had found its banner, and its voice, Elias Corrin, alive, leading the rebellion. I saw his broadcast, hacked into the Terran communication grid. His face was worn, scarred, but his voice was steel. This is not Earth's victory. This is not humanity's destiny. The stars are not ours to conquer. They are ours to share. Rise, fight, remember who we were. The message spread like wildfire. Mercer didn't order Corrin's death. Not yet. Too public, he said. We need to break the rebellion first. But the whispers grew. Even aboard Dominion, I heard them. Young officers, crew who remembered old Earth, dissent. Then the others made their first move. A Terran colony, Zeros 4, went silent. Not attacked, not destroyed, empty. Millions gone. No sign of battle, no bodies, just nothing. Our Leviathan task force arrived days later. I stood on Zeros' surface. Dead cities, intact, untouched, but wrong. The air tasted thin. The gravity felt off. Time itself seemed to ripple. And in the sky, a scar, a rent in space, pulsing with dark light. Hale arrived soon after. He studied it, smiled. They are here, he said, and we are not ready. Now the race begins. The rebellion grows. The others move, and Hale's madness spreads. Mercer fights to hold the Empire. I walk the knife's edge. Soon I must choose. Stand with Mercer and try to save what can be saved? Join Corrin and the Phoenix? Or follow Hale into the dark unknown? The stars burn bright. But for how long? Humanity rose from fire. Now fire may consume us all. I never thought I'd see Mercer afraid. Not of war, not of rebellion, not even of Hale. But when the first others finally revealed themselves, the old general looked like a man staring down a force he couldn't command. It began on the edge of known space, the Vantara Expanse, an old Ithari stronghold, now under Terran control. Routine patrols reported anomalies, energy fields, gravitational shifts. Then a battlecruiser vanished mid-transit. No distress call, no wreckage. Mercer dispatched Leviathan 4, Abyssus, under Admiral Wren, to investigate. 3 days later, Abyssus returned. Barely. Its hull was warped, armor scorched in patterns no weapon we knew could make. Most of the crew, gone. Those that remained were broken, minds shattered, eyes blank. The ship's AI had fragmented itself just to survive. The last coherent log came from the chief tactical officer. His voice was ragged, gasping. They are not ships. They are shadows, thoughts. They think us prey. We cannot fight thought. I stood in Dominion's command nexus when Mercer played the recording. No one spoke for a long time. Then Mercer looked at Hale. Well? Hale looked pleased. They are testing us, he said. We have their attention now. And we can fight this? Mercer asked flatly. Hale smiled. With the right weapons, the right sacrifices. I saw Mercer's jaw tighten, and I knew the lines between them were hardening. Behind the scenes I moved, following Mercer's orders, digging into Hale's hidden projects. Project Wraith was just the surface. Below it, something darker. Project Nyx, hidden facilities, research beyond Terran law, beyond Terran sanity, experimental weapons, yes. But also, something more. Attempts to breach the veil, to control the others. It was madness. The data spoke for itself. Hale's scientists had captured fragments, quantum echoes, neural imprints of the other presence. They were trying to build an interface, a way to communicate, or worse, a way to bend these forces to Hale's will. The risks? Catastrophic. The lead researcher's final report was blunt. Probability of containment failure, 94%. Probability of universal destabilization, 73%. Recommendation? Terminate project. Hale ignored it. Mercer read the same report. His face went pale. He'll kill us all, he said quietly. The rebellion, the empire, none of it will matter. He met my gaze. It's time. The plan was simple. Expose Hale. Rally the high command faction still loyal to Mercer. Seize the black sites. Shut down Nyx. Before Hale triggered something we couldn't stop. But simple didn't mean easy. Hale's reach was vast. Half the fleet admirals were already his creatures. The Wraith ships answered to him alone. And on Earth, loyalty was fractured. The rebellion burned hotter than ever. Phoenix forces had taken 3 core worlds. Entire sectors declared open revolt. And Corrin's broadcasts struck a chord even within the Leviathan crews. I saw it aboard Dominion. Young officers questioning orders. Old veterans wearing Phoenix sigils beneath their uniforms. I confronted one, Lieutenant Brandt, a comms tech I'd known for years. You know what this means, I told him. He met my gaze without fear. I do, and you do too. You've seen what we've become. He was right, but I wasn't ready to choose. Not yet. The first blow fell on Mars. Hale moved faster than we expected. His forces seized the primary high command spire, declared emergency authority under existential threat protocols. A polite way of saying coup. Mercer barely escaped with his core staff, fled aboard Leviathan 1. Mars burned. Dominion stood at the edge, ordered to secure loyalty. Mercer contacted us in secret. Captain Alaric, Dominion's master, was old school, loyal to Mercer and to Earth. He made the call. We jumped to rendezvous with Leviathan 1. A third of our escorts refused the order, defected to Hale mid-jump. We emerged into a war zone. Hale's fleet was already in pursuit. And not just Terran ships. The first Wraith-enhanced dreadnoughts moved among them, sleek, dark, wrong. Their weapons tore through standard shielding like paper. Mercer's battered forces regrouped at Proxima Centauri. I stood on Dominion's bridge as the battle unfolded. Leviathan 1 held the center, Dominion on its flank. Our guns screamed into the void, but the Wraith ships, they moved differently. Phase shifts, partial invisibility, time glitches. One appeared inside our formation, tearing a cruiser apart before we could react. We fought for hours, barely escaped, retreated to deep space, old rebel safe havens Mercer's spies had uncovered. And now, the war was civil. Terran against Terran. Meanwhile, the others advanced. More colonies fell. No battles, no wreckage. Just emptiness. Even the Phoenix couldn't explain it. Corrin sent encrypted messages to Mercer, proposing a truce, an alliance against the greater threat. Mercer hesitated, but the choice was clear. We met at Erythra Outpost, neutral ground. Mercer, Corrin, myself, a handful of trusted officers. It was tense, decades of war between us. But Corrin spoke first. I don't care about your empire anymore, he said. I care about survival. Hale will doom us all. The others won't stop at the Union, or the Phoenix. They'll consume everything. Mercer nodded. I know. An alliance was struck. Unthinkable a year ago. Now? Necessary. Mercer's fleet, Phoenix forces, even defectors from Hale's own ranks. We had one goal, stop Nyx. Before Hale opened a door we couldn't close. Now the fleet's mass again. The final strike looms, and beyond the stars, the others wait. I stand aboard Dominion. Ready. Afraid. Because deep down I wonder, is it already too late? War had come home. The stars burned as Terran ships tore each other apart. It wasn't just fleets now. It was brother against brother, captain against captain, Leviathan against Leviathan. All for the same reason. Project Nyx. We knew where Hale's core site was. Nyx Prime, a hidden complex deep beneath Titan's surface. Old mining tunnels converted into a sprawling black lab. And above it, a fleet. His fleet. Wraith ships in force, half of Earth's elite squadrons, and Leviathan 5, Revenant, now fully Hale's flagship. He had moved faster than we'd feared. The breach had already begun. I saw the first scans, a rip in space above Titan, spreading. The laws of physics degraded near it. Ships' clocks ran out of sync. Signals echoed before they were sent. Gravity rippled. And worse, shadow forms moved within the breach. Not ships, not matter, thoughts, predators. Our alliance had no choice. Mercer, Corin, Phoenix forces, we gathered everything we had. 2 Leviathans, Dominion and Leviathan 1. 5 Phoenix dreadnoughts. A ragged fleet of defectors and loyalists. It wasn't enough, but it was all we had. I stood with Mercer aboard Dominion. He looked across the fleet display. Cold eyes, hard face. "This is it," he said. I nodded. "If we fail, we don't fail." The final jump began. A mass assault on Titan, into the jaws of the breach. The battle erupted the moment we arrived. Hale's fleet was ready. Revenant moved like a thing alive, its hull twisted, shimmering with other energies. Wraith ships swarmed, vanishing, reappearing inside our lines. Chaos. I manned the gravitic core arrays, pushing them beyond safe limits. We needed every edge. Dominion's guns screamed, rail slugs and gravitic lances cutting through Wraith hulls. But for every ship we killed, 2 more seemed to take its place, and the breach kept growing. Then the first true horror came. An enemy ship breached our port flank. No ID, not a Wraith, not a Terran design, a dark mass, writhing, shifting. It didn't fire weapons. It projected something, a psychic pulse. Half our port crew collapsed, screaming, bleeding from eyes and ears. Mercer's voice snapped through comms. "Focus fire! Kill it now!" We poured everything into it. Gravitic blasts, singularity torps. It flickered and vanished. Not destroyed. Withdrawn. Learning. I looked at Mercer. His face was stone. "They're coming through faster." Meanwhile, Phoenix forces led by Corin had broken through to Titan orbit. Dropships descended, a desperate ground assault on Nyx Prime. If they could reach the core, shut it down, we might stop the breach, or buy time. Dominion held the line above. Then a signal cut through the chaos. Hale himself, a direct channel. His face appeared, gaunt, eyes burning with unnatural light. "You cannot stop this," he said. "You cannot cage the future." Mercer answered coldly. "You're killing us all, Hale." Hale laughed. Evolution is never painless. The feed cut. Moments later, Revenant surged forward. Target, Dominion. The 2 Leviathans collided in battle. Our shields screamed. Hull breaches opened. Decks tore apart. I fought from engineering, rerouting power, sealing ruptures, feeding the weapons. No time to think. No time to feel. Only survival. Above Titan, the breach writhed. Larger now, nearly planetary in scale. And from within, more shadows came. Then, hope. Corin's team reported breach of Nyx Prime's outer defenses. They were inside, fighting room to room, but time was running out. Mercer made the call. Prepare for orbital strike. We would glass Titan if we had to. Stop Hale, stop the breach, at any cost. But Corin's voice broke through. Give us 5 minutes. 5 minutes. Eternity in battle. Revenant struck again, crippling our starboard batteries. Our main rail cannon was offline. I worked furiously, bypassing blown circuits, realigning the gravitic lenses. Fingers bloody, breath ragged. One more shot. We needed one more shot. Then, Corin again. We've reached the core, fighting in the heart of Nyx Prime. I heard the reports. The core wasn't machinery anymore. It was alive, warped by the others, pulsing, thinking, trying to expand the breach. And Hale was there, personally, trying to merge with it. Corin's last transmission was chaos, gunfire, screams, then static. We had no choice. Fire, Mercer ordered. Dominion charged its main cannon, the repaired lens barely holding. Target, Titan. At the last second, a new signal. Corrin's voice, ragged, weak. Core destabilized. Breach collapsing. Get clear! The breach above Titan convulsed. A scream, not sound, but mind-breaking thought, echoed across every comm. The shadows recoiled. Titan cracked. The breach imploded. A shockwave tore through orbit. Revenant vanished, consumed by the collapse. The Wraith fleet shattered. Silence. We'd won, at a cost. Titan was gone, a shattered moon. Half our fleet was wrecked, but the breach was closed. For now. Hale was dead. Corrin's team, missing. No signal. I stood with Mercer on Dominion's bridge, watching the debris field, smoke, silence, and the stars beyond, cold. We bought time, I said. Mercer nodded. For now. But even then, we knew. The others weren't finished. The breach had been a door, a knock, and now, they knew we were here. Humanity had survived. Barely. But the war was not over. It had only begun. And deep down, I wondered, could we win, or had we already lost? The silence after Titan was worse than the battle. No victory parades, no speeches, no medals, just wreckage, in orbit, on the ground, and in the hearts of those who survived. We limped back toward Sol. Dominion was barely spaceworthy, half her decks gutted, her main drives sputtering. Of the fleet we'd launched, only a fraction returned. And Earth? Earth didn't celebrate. Earth buried its dead. The Terran Union was broken. Hale's death left a vacuum. The High Command shattered into warring factions. Phoenix cells surged, taking back system after system. Some sectors declared independence outright, refusing both Union and Phoenix rule. Old Earth ideals, freedom, democracy, flickered back to life in the cracks. But they were weak flames, struggling against the storm. Mercer tried to hold the center. He called for unity, reconstruction, preparation, because he knew better than anyone that the others weren't done. Titan had been one attempt. The next would be worse. I saw him in the war room one cycle, hunched over a star map. His hands trembled, just slightly. "What's left?" I asked. He didn't look up. Not enough. The first signs came sooner than expected. Deep space telescopes, those still operational, detected anomalies at the edges of known space. Ripples, breaches, multiple. Small at first, testing, pushing, then larger. Whole sectors went dark. No distress calls, no survivors, just silence. The others weren't like anything we'd fought before. Not ships, not armies. They were invasions of reality itself, thoughts weaponized, space folded against us. Fighting them was like punching smoke, like screaming at a nightmare. We gathered what we could. Mercer rallied loyal fleets, Terran, Phoenix, Independent. Old grudges buried beneath the need to survive. But it was too little. We saw the first true assault at Telos Reach. The breach bloomed like a black sun. Ships that approached disintegrated, not destroyed but unraveled. Crew members reported visions, past and future jumbled, memories twisted, time loops. Some simply stopped, frozen in place, minds erased. I stood aboard Dominion, still scarred, still standing, as we watched the Reach die. Mercer was silent. No orders, no plan, just watching. When the breach consumed the Telos star, we knew. We couldn't win. Not like this. Desperation breeds madness. Some factions turned to old tech, forbidden weapons from the contact wars, singularity bombs, viral AIs. Others fled, deep into the galactic rim, hoping distance would save them. It wouldn't. The others didn't move by distance. They moved by thought. Where we thought we were safe, they would follow. Mercer gathered us one last time. The surviving captains, the rebel leaders, even Corrin, somehow alive, scars running down his face, eyes harder than before. We met in the ruins of Luna Command. No ceremony, no rank, just men and women facing extinction. Mercer spoke first. "We can't fight them," he said. "Not conventionally." He looked at Hale's old notes, scattered on the table. "But there's a chance." He outlined the plan. A weapon. Not of destruction, but of denial. If the others fed on thought, on reality, then we would starve them. A singularity cascade. A chain reaction that would collapse localized spacetime, deny the others the material they needed. The catch? It would cost us everything. Sol. Earth. Humanity's cradle. Everything we were. Gone. Silence filled the room. No one spoke, not even Corin. Finally, I broke the stillness. "What's left if we do that?" Mercer met my gaze. "Survival," he explained. "Scattered colonies, deep space outposts, far from the core, might survive. Seeds of humanity. Not an empire, not a union, just fragments. A chance to begin again. Or we could fight. And lose. Everything. It wasn't a choice, not really. Preparations began immediately. The cascade generators were still experimental, ancient tech, dangerous and barely understood. But Hale had built the framework. And now, we would finish it. The work was brutal. Rewiring singularity cores, building the cascade lattice across the Sol system. We worked under constant threat, breaches flickering at the edge of our sensors. Sometimes shadow shapes brushed against the system, probes, scouts, testing our resolve. Mercer called for a final transmission, a message to the galaxy. It was simple. "We are not your prey. We are not your slaves. We are fire. And if we must burn, we will take you with us." The cascade was set. One ignition, and Sul would collapse in on itself. A black hole, consuming our history, our sins, our triumphs, and denying the others their victory. The final hours were strange. Crew wandered Dominion's decks in silence. Some wrote messages to the colonies, time capsules, hoping fragments would survive. Some prayed, others drank. I sat alone in the gravitic core chamber, my hands resting on the old consoles, remembering. Mercer found me there. He sat without speaking for a long time. Then he said, "I never wanted this." I nodded. Neither did they. I thought of Saltir Prime, of the dead at Vega, of the black ships and the Wraith tech, of Hale's madness, of the rebellion, of what we'd become, and what we'd lost. When the others came, full force this time, the stars themselves seemed to bend. The breach split wide, a vast wound in space. Shadow shapes poured through. Not ships, thoughts, predators. They moved like hunger given form. Dominion shook as they breached the outer defense line. No point resisting. No escape. Mercer's voice cut through the chaos. "Now!" I entered the final codes, fingers steady, heart cold. The cascade lit the void. One by one, singularity cores ignited, black points blooming across Sul. The others recoiled. Too late. The system folded. Earth cracked, oceans boiling, skies burning. Mars shattered. Venus imploded. Jupiter collapsed. And Sol? The star screamed, a final blinding flash. Then, silence. The breach closed. The others vanished. Nothing remained but the void. I woke much later. How? I don't know. Maybe luck. Maybe mercy. Dominion had been thrown far, into deep space, damaged, silent, drifting, but alive. I wandered her darkened halls. Ghost of a ship, ghost of a man. No crew, no lights, just me. And the stars beyond. I don't know how much time passed. Days, years. Time means little in the dark, but eventually, a signal. Weak, fragile, a human signal. I followed it, navigated the blackness, and found them, a colony, survivors, a fragment of humanity clinging to life on a barren rock. They welcomed me. They asked what had happened, what we had done. I told them, we fought, We lost, but we didn't die. And maybe, just maybe, that was enough. The stars are dark now, but in that darkness there is still life, still hope, still fire. We are not what we were, but we are still here, and the galaxy will remember. Humanity burns bright, even in the void.